My name is Hannah Whitaker. I'm 40 years old. At 2:18 on a Tuesday afternoon, sitting in a courthouse hallway with my parents on one side of me and my sister's divorce attorney walking past with the briefcase I had paid for, I heard my sister say, "Hannah never helped me. She made everything worse." The words did not arrive dramatically, no thunder, no gasp, no music swelling. Just my sister, Lauren, standing near the vending machines in a navy dress I had bought her for mediation, speaking to our parents in that soft, wounded voice she used when she wanted sympathy without being interrupted by facts. My mother touched Lauren's arm. "Oh, honey." My father looked at me like I had become something disappointing in real time. And I sat there holding a folder full of receipts, screenshots, wire confirmations, attorney invoices, hotel bookings, moving expenses, safety plan notes, childcare payments, and the first text Lauren sent me the night she decided to leave her husband. "Hannah, I'm scared. Please don't tell Mom and Dad yet. I need you." I had not told them. I had gone to her. At 11:43 at night, in the middle of a January ice storm, I drove 86 miles to pick up my sister and her 6-year-old daughter from a gas station off Route 40, where Lauren stood shaking under a flickering light, with one suitcase, one stuffed rabbit, and a bruise she kept insisting was not that bad. I brought them to my house, I made up the guest room, I called a lawyer, I paid the retainer, I bought groceries, I replaced the phone her husband had been tracking, I paid for emergency therapy, I covered the first apartment deposit, I missed work, I sat in court, I held my niece while Lauren cried in the bathroom after the temporary custody hearing. I listened to every frightened voicemail, every late-night spiral, every "I can't do this," every "what if he changes," every "what if I made it sound worse than it was." Every moment when leaving became harder than surviving what she had already lived through. I helped her escape. Quietly. Because she asked me to. Because she said our parents would panic, take over, judge, forgive the wrong person, or turn her pain into family theater. I believed her. Maybe I wanted to believe that being chosen in a crisis meant being trusted in the aftermath. That was my mistake. Because 10 months later, when the divorce became expensive, when Lauren wanted sympathy without accountability, when my parents began asking where all the money had gone, and when her ex-husband's attorney raised questions about who had funded what and why, Lauren did what she had done since we were children. She stepped behind me and called it protection. The courthouse hallway smelled like burnt coffee, floor polish, and stale winter coats. People moved around us, carrying files and grief. Somewhere down the hall, a child cried. An attorney laughed too loudly into his phone. A bailiff called a case number through a doorway. Lauren wiped under her eyes, though I saw no tears. "She pressured me into hiring that lawyer," she said. "She said if I didn't leave, I was weak." I closed my eyes. My mother gasped. "Hannah." I opened my eyes and looked at my sister. "Lauren." She flinched. Just slightly. Because she knew that tone. It was not rage, it was inventory. She turned toward me, face pale. "I didn't mean." "Yes," I said. "You did." Dad stood. "Enough. This is not the place." "No," I said, rising slowly with the folder in my hand. "It is exactly the place. Because she just lied in a courthouse." Lauren's attorney, Ms. Kendall, had stopped near the doorway. She turned back when she heard that sentence. Lauren looked terrified now. Not of her ex-husband. Not of the court. Of documentation. That was the thing she had forgotten about me. I was not loud. I was not dramatic. I was not especially charming. But I kept records. I always had. My mother said, "Hannah, don't attack your sister. She's been through enough." I looked at her. "So have I." Lauren whispered, "Please." That word almost got me. Please. The same word she used the night she asked me to pick her up. "Please don't tell Mom. Please pay the retainer and I'll pay you back. Please book the hotel under your name so David can't find me. Please say I was with you all weekend. Please don't let me go back. Please help me. Please." For 10 months I had answered that word with action. Now she used it to ask me to swallow the truth again. I opened the folder. The top page was the attorney retainer receipt, $8,500. Paid by Hannah Whitaker. For Lauren Whitaker Hayes. I placed it on the bench between us. Then the second page. Emergency hotel booking. 3 nights. Paid by Hannah Whitaker. Then the third. Apartment deposit. Then childcare payment. Then therapy invoice. Then bank transfer. Then moving truck rental. Then the screenshot of Lauren's text. I can't tell Mom and Dad. They'll make me go back. Please be the only one who knows until I'm ready. My father looked at the papers. His expression changed. Not enough. But it changed. Ms. Kendall stepped closer. Hannah, she said carefully, may I see that folder? Lauren said, no. Too fast. Everyone heard it. Ms. Kendall looked at her client. Lauren. My sister covered her mouth. The courtroom door opened. The clerk called our case. Hayes versus Hayes. Ms. Kendall looked at me, then at Lauren, then at the folder. Hannah, she said, bring that with you. My sister had testified against me before the hearing even started. She had forgotten I had brought the truth in paper form. This is that story. Before I tell you how my sister learned that lying about the person who paid for your freedom becomes harder when every payment and message is in one folder, tell me where you are watching or listening from, and what time it is there. I always wonder who hears stories like this, while remembering the moment someone took your help, spent your money, leaned on your strength, then denied your hand was ever there. And if you connect with stories about women who were used, betrayed, blamed, and quietly took their power back, like and subscribe to Ultimate Revenge. Some women do not shout in courthouse hallways. Some women open the folder. I grew up in Springfield, Missouri, in a family that believed helping your sister was not optional, but being repaid for that help was rude to mention. My parents, Donna and Martin Whitaker, were decent people in the way many decent people are when life is not testing their loyalties too hard. My father ran a small insurance office. My mother taught 2nd grade and believed in kindness, handwritten thank you notes, and never discussing money at the table unless someone needed mine. Lauren was 4 years younger than me. Pretty, emotional, persuasive. The kind of girl teachers described as, quote, sensitive, which often meant she cried before consequences arrived and everyone got confused about which one mattered more. I was the steady one. That was not a compliment in our house, it was a job assignment. Hannah will understand. Hannah can wait. Hannah is responsible. Hannah knows Lauren didn't mean it. When we were children, Lauren broke my mother's blue vase and told her I had been playing ball in the house. I had not. I was reading on the porch. Mom believed Lauren because Lauren was sobbing so hard she hiccuped. I was grounded for 2 days until Dad found the broken baseball card Lauren had been throwing against the wall. Mom apologized by making pancakes. Lauren apologized by hugging me and saying I didn't know what to do. That became the pattern. Lauren caused a problem. Lauren panicked. Lauren blamed sideways. I absorbed impact. The adults eventually found out or did not. Either way, I was expected to forgive quickly because Lauren was fragile. Fragile. Another word families use when they mean unaccountable. The symbolic object in this story was a green metal cash box. My grandmother gave it to me when I was 13, after I started babysitting for neighbors. It had a tiny lock, a bent handle, and a label holder on the front, where Grandma wrote in her careful script, Hannah's future. Inside, I kept babysitting money, birthday checks, report cards, ticket stubs, and receipts. Grandma told me, money tells a story. Write yours down before someone else writes it for you. I became the person who kept receipts because Grandma taught me records were not distrust. They were memory with dates. Lauren made fun of that box. You're so intense, she said when we were teenagers. Who keeps receipts for movie tickets? People who like knowing where their money went. Boring. Maybe, but boring saved me later. Lauren married David Hayes when she was 28. He was polished, attentive, and just controlling enough to seem protective if you wanted the marriage to look good. He opened doors, ordered for her at restaurants, corrected her stories, monitored her spending because she got anxious, and called her 3 times during family dinners to ask when she was coming home. My parents loved him. He's stable, Mom said. He has a good job, Dad said. He clearly adores her, Mom added. I did not like him, not at first sight, not after. But I had learned to be careful with concerns about men other people had already decided to praise. At the bridal shower, David arrived early to help load gifts and quietly told Lauren she had hugged his cousin too long. I saw her face change. Smile tighten. Shoulders fold inward. When I asked later if she was okay, she laughed. David just gets jealous, it's kinda sweet. It is not sweet. She looked annoyed. You don't understand, because you're not married. I was not married then. Still am not. That sentence became one of Lauren's favorite shields. You don't understand. You don't have kids. You don't know what marriage is like. You're independent, so you think everyone can just leave. Maybe I did not understand everything, but I understood fear when I saw it. The first years of Lauren's marriage looked good from outside. Nice house, Christmas cards, matching pajamas, a baby girl named Sophie, with Lauren's eyes and David's serious little frown. Lauren posted photos. Family hikes, pumpkin patches, beach vacations, date nights. Behind the photos, she began calling me from the car. Not often at first, just little cracks. David got mad because I spent too much at Target. David doesn't want me working yet because daycare is expensive. David says Mom and Dad interfere too much. David thinks you don't respect our marriage. That last one told me he had noticed I was not fooled. I said, do you feel safe? She laughed too quickly. Don't be dramatic. Then she stopped calling for a while. When Sophie was 4, Lauren showed up at my house with sunglasses on a cloudy day and said she had bumped into a cabinet. I did not ask whether the cabinet had fingers. I said, do you want coffee? She cried into the mug, then said, I can't talk about it. I said, okay. That is something people misunderstand about helping someone in a toxic marriage. You cannot drag them into safety by the hair. You can keep a door unlocked. You can tell the truth softly. You can offer a plan. You can refuse to pretend, but you cannot leave for them. For 2 more years, Lauren hovered near the door. Then the January ice storm came. I was asleep when my phone rang at 11:31. Lauren, I answered immediately. What's wrong? At first, all I heard was breathing. Then she said, can you come get me? I sat up. Where are you? Gas station off Route 40, the one near Marsh Creek. Is Sophie with you? Yes. Are you hurt? I don't know. I was already pulling on clothes. Stay inside if you can. I'm coming. Hannah. Yes? Please don't tell Mom and Dad. That was the first please. The road was ice, shadow, and headlights. I drove slowly, gripping the wheel, calling 911 once when my car slid near a ditch and then deciding not to call again, because Lauren said David had taken her phone earlier and she was using the gas station clerk's charger. When I arrived, Lauren stood inside the gas station near the coffee machine, one hand on Sophie's shoulder. Sophie clutched a stuffed rabbit. Lauren had a bruise blooming near her cheekbone and a split lip. Her coat was open despite the cold. She looked smaller than I had ever seen her. I did not ask questions in front of Sophie. I hugged them both. Then I drove home. At my house, I gave Sophie warm socks, hot chocolate, and my bed. Lauren sat at my kitchen table under a blanket, shaking. He threw my phone, she said. Then he grabbed my arm. Sophie saw. I packed when he went outside to cool off. Did he hit you? She looked away. Not like people think. That sentence is its own kind of answer. I said, you can stay here. She cried. I called a domestic violence hotline that night from my bathroom. They helped me think through safety planning. They told me not to contact David directly. They told me to preserve messages, photograph injuries if Lauren consented, and seek legal advice. At 6 the next morning, I called Ms. Kendall, a divorce attorney recommended by a friend. Her office required an emergency retainer, $8,500. Lauren looked at me with hollow eyes. I don't have that. I know. I'll pay you back. We'll figure it out. No, I will, I promise. She held my hand like the promise mattered. I paid. The first payment came from savings I had built for a kitchen renovation. The renovation waited. Lauren's safety did not. My parents found out on day 4. Not because Lauren told them. Because David called Mom crying. That was his first strategy. He said Lauren had disappeared with Sophie, and he was worried. Mom called me hysterical. "Hannah, is Lauren with you?" I looked at Lauren. She shook her head frantically. I said, "She's safe." "Where?" "With me." "Oh, thank God," David said. "Do not tell David anything." Mom went silent. What happened? Lauren took the phone and said, "Mom, I need you to listen to Hannah." For a few weeks, they did. That was the strange part. At first, everyone acted like a team. Dad came over and installed a camera at my front door. Mom brought clothes for Sophie. Lauren gave a statement to her lawyer. Temporary custody paperwork began. I paid for a replacement phone and changed all passwords with her. I documented texts, expenses, dates. I created a spreadsheet because chaos becomes less powerful when it has columns. Date, expense, amount, paid by, purpose, reimbursement status, notes. Lauren laughed weakly when she saw it. "Of course you made a spreadsheet." "Yes. I love you." "I know." I should have made her sign something then. Not because I did not trust her. Because clarity protects relationships from later fear. But she was fragile. There it was again. And I was still trained to protect fragile at my own expense. Over the next 10 months, I paid for more than the retainer. Court filing fees. Emergency counseling. A hotel stay when David drove past my house twice and Lauren panicked. Moving truck. Apartment deposit. First month's rent. A used laptop so she could apply for remote work. School supplies for Sophie. Childcare during hearings. A mediation outfit. Groceries. Gas. Small things too. Diapers for her friend's baby, because Lauren wanted to thank someone. A birthday cake for Sophie, because Lauren forgot until the night before. Printer ink. Copies. Certified mail. Every payment had a receipt. Every request had a text. Some nights Lauren was grateful. "Hannah, I swear I'll repay you." "Hannah, I don't know what I'd do without you." "Hannah, you saved us." Other nights she was angry. "You don't understand how hard this is. You make everything so practical. Not everything needs a spreadsheet. You're not the one losing a marriage." No, I was not. I was losing savings, sleep, peace, and the illusion that helping someone meant they would not later resent needing help. My parents shifted slowly. At first, they praised me. "You've been wonderful," Mom said. "Couldn't have done it without you," Dad said. Then bills piled. The divorce dragged. David got aggressive through his attorney. Lauren missed deadlines. Sophie started having nightmares. Mom began saying maybe mediation would be kinder. Dad said lawyers profit from conflict. Lauren heard that and began softening the story. Not publicly at first, just enough. David wasn't always bad. I probably made things worse by leaving so suddenly. Hannah was the one who insisted on the expensive lawyer. I was overwhelmed. I don't even know how much she paid. That last one reached me through Mom at Sunday dinner. "How much have you spent exactly?" Mom asked. I looked at her. "Why?" "Well, Lauren says she doesn't know. She has the spreadsheet." Mom looked uncomfortable. She feels controlled by it. I set my fork down. Controlled by knowing who paid her legal bills? Dad said, "Hannah, she's under stress." "So am I." Mom sighed. "We know, but you're stronger." There it was again, the family math. Lauren's stress excused behavior. My strength erased cost. I said strength is not an unlimited line of credit. Dad looked disappointed. I stopped attending Sunday dinner for a while. The court issue began when David's attorney argued that Lauren had been influenced by, quote, external family pressure to pursue divorce and custody restrictions. He wanted to paint her as unstable and manipulated. He suggested I had controlled Lauren financially by paying her lawyer and pushing a separation agenda. It was absurd. It was also dangerous. Ms. Kendall prepared Lauren. "You need to be clear," she said in a conference call. "Your decisions were your own. Financial support from your sister does not mean coercion." Lauren said, "I know." I was on that call, I heard her say it. The day of the hearing, she changed. Maybe because David was there. Maybe because our parents were there. Maybe because shame makes some people shove the nearest person toward the fire. In the courthouse hallway, before testimony, Mom asked Lauren, "Did Hannah make you do all this?" Lauren did not say no. She looked at me, then down at her hands. I just felt like I had no choice. My chest tightened. Dad said, "Because of David?" Lauren whispered, "Because of everyone." Then came the sentence. Hannah never helped me. She made everything worse. I need to pause here for a second. If you have ever helped someone through the worst season of their life, and then watched them rewrite your help into harm, because accountability became inconvenient, you know what Hannah felt in that courthouse hallway. It was not only betrayal. It was realizing you had been carrying someone who might still point at you if the bridge got slippery. If this story is hitting close to home, leave a comment and tell me when receipts became the only language your family could not twist. And if you have not already, subscribe to Ultimate Revenge. The quiet part is over. Inside the courtroom, everything became formal. That almost helped. Courtrooms are cold places for messy families because they require names, dates, answers, and people to stop hiding behind sighs. Judge Patricia Rowe presided. She was in her 60s, silver-haired, sharp-eyed, and visibly uninterested in emotional fog. Lauren testified first. Ms. Kendall asked calm questions. Why did you leave? Did anyone force you? Did you choose counsel voluntarily? Did your sister provide financial help? Lauren began well. Then David's attorney stood. Mr. Avery. Tall, smooth, expensive suit, polite cruelty. Mrs. Hayes, he said, isn't it true your sister Hannah has been heavily involved in your divorce? Lauren looked at me. Yes. She selected your attorney? She found Ms. Kendall. Paid the retainer? Yes. Paid other expenses? Yes. Tracked those expenses? Yes. Expected repayment? Lauren hesitated. Ms. Kendall looked up. The judge watched. Lauren said softly, I felt pressured. The courtroom went quiet. My hands went cold. Mr. Avery stepped closer. Pressured by whom? Lauren's eyes filled. Hannah? My mother made a small sound behind me. Dad stared forward. Ms. Kendall rose. Objection to characterization without foundation. Judge Rowe said, sustained, rephrase. Mr. Avery smiled slightly. Did your sister ever tell you that if you did not proceed with the divorce, you would be weak? Lauren looked down. I stopped breathing. She whispered, yes. No. No. Not once. I had told her she was not weak if leaving felt hard. I had told her going back did not mean she was stupid, but it might mean she was unsafe. I had told her fear was not proof she should stay. I had never said what she had just given him. Mr. Avery continued. Did Hannah control your access to funds? No, but did she keep records of money she spent on you? Yes. Did that make you feel indebted? Lauren cried. Yes. Miss Kendall stood again. Your Honor, I need to request a brief recess. Judge Rowe looked at Lauren, then at Miss Kendall, then at Mr. Avery. 10 minutes. The gavel came down. Miss Kendall turned to me as soon as we were in the hallway. The folder? I handed it to her. Lauren whispered, Hannah, please don't. Miss Kendall looked at her. Lauren, did you just testify falsely? Lauren began crying harder. Mom said, she's scared. Miss Kendall turned to my mother. Mrs. Whitaker, with respect, this is no longer a family conversation. That shut Mom down. Miss Kendall opened the folder on a hallway bench. Her eyes moved quickly. Retainer receipt. Texts. Spreadsheet. Voice memos. Emails. Payment confirmations. Screenshots of Lauren asking me not to involve our parents. Screenshots of Lauren writing, You are not pressuring me. I'm just scared. Please remind me why I left when I start minimizing it. Miss Kendall stopped there. She looked at Lauren. Did you send this? Lauren covered her face. Yes. Did Hannah tell you that you were weak? No. The word was barely audible. Miss Kendall's jaw tightened. "Why did you say yes?" Lauren sobbed. "Because David was looking at me. Because Mom asked if Hannah made me do it. Because I felt stupid. Because if I admit I chose this, then I have to admit I stayed so long and Sophie saw so much and She broke. I felt my anger shift. Not disappear. Shift. Because there it was. The truth. She was not trying to protect David exactly. She was trying to escape the weight of having chosen late. So she put the weight on me. Ms. Kendall closed the folder. "When we go back in, I am going to correct the record. You will answer truthfully. If you do not, I may need to withdraw or request further remedy. Do you understand?" Lauren nodded, crying. Then she looked at me. "I'm sorry." I stared at her. "For what specifically?" She flinched. "Hannah, not now." "Yes, now." She swallowed. "For lying. For saying you pressured me. For saying you made everything worse when you paid for everything." My voice shook for the first time. "Do not reduce this to money." She nodded quickly. "For saying you didn't help when you came in the middle of the night. For blaming you because I was ashamed." I looked at her. "Thank you." It did not fix anything. But it put truth on the floor where everyone could see it. Back in court, Ms. Kendall requested permission to clarify prior testimony and introduce exhibits relevant to coercion allegations. Mr. Avery objected. Judge Rowe allowed limited questioning. Ms. Kendall's voice stayed calm. "Mrs. Hayes, earlier you testified that your sister Hannah pressured you by calling you weak. Was that accurate?" Lauren looked terrified, then said, "No." Mr. Avery shifted. Ms. Kendall continued. "Did Hannah ever force you to leave your husband?" "No." "Did Hannah pay the emergency legal retainer at your request?" "Yes." "Did she cover other expenses at your request?" "Yes." "Did she ever withhold money unless you took legal action?" "No." "Did she ever threaten you?" "No." "Did you send Hannah messages asking her to remind you why you left when you began minimizing the abuse?" Lauren's voice broke. "Yes." Ms. Kendall handed copies to the clerk. "Your Honor, Exhibit 12 shows messages from Mrs. Hayes to Hannah Whitaker on February 3rd, March 9th, and April 16th. Judge Rowe read. The courtroom was silent. My parents sat behind me, breathing like people finally understanding that silence had not protected them from facts. Ms. Kendall read one message aloud. "Hannah, I keep thinking maybe it wasn't that bad. Please remind me I'm not crazy. Please remind me Sophie was crying in the closet when he punched the wall." Lauren sobbed. David's face changed. For once, he looked less smug. Ms. Kendall asked, "Did Hannah respond by calling you weak?" "No." "How did she respond?" Lauren cried harder. "She wrote, 'You are not crazy. You are scared. I will not tell you what to do, but I will help you stay safe while you decide.'" Ms. Kendall let that sit. Then she asked, "Did Hannah make everything worse?" Lauren looked at me. "No, she helped me." The words did not heal the wound, but they stopped the bleeding in public. Judge Rowe leaned forward. "Mrs. Hayes, the court understands fear and coercion can create complicated emotional responses. But testimony matters, do you understand?" Lauren wiped her face. "Yes, Your Honor." The judge looked at both attorneys. "We will proceed based on evidence, not family speculation." Evidence, my favorite word that day. The hearing ended with temporary custody protections maintained, financial disclosures ordered, and David's attempt to frame Lauren as manipulated significantly weakened. A legal victory. A family disaster. In the parking lot afterward, Mom tried to hug Lauren first. I do not begrudge her that. Lauren was shaking. She needed support. Then Mom turned to me. "Hannah, honey." I stepped back. Her face crumpled. "I'm sorry." I said, "For what specifically?" She looked exhausted. "For believing the worst of you too quickly. For asking Lauren whether you made her do it. For treating your help like control because Lauren was upset." Dad stood beside her, pale. "I'm sorry too," he said. I waited. "For assuming you were strong enough to be blamed." That one hurt. Because it was exact. I nodded once. I need space. Mom started crying. But we're family. I looked at her. Then stop using that word like a bill collector. I got into my car and left. Lauren called 14 times that night. I did not answer. She texted, "I'm sorry." Then, "Please talk to me." Then, I panicked. Then, "You don't understand what it felt like." I replied once. "I understand panic. I do not understand choosing me as your exit from accountability. I need time. Do not contact me except about repayment logistics or emergency information regarding Sophie." She did not respond for 3 days. Those 3 days were some of the quietest I had known in a year, and some of the saddest. Because helping Lauren had become my routine. Her needs had filled my phone, my calendar, my bank account, my emotional life. When the messages stopped, I felt both relief and grief. That is something people do not tell you about being overused. When it ends, you miss the role that was hurting you. Not because it was healthy, because it gave you purpose. I went back to my own life slowly. Work, laundry, grocery shopping. A dentist appointment I had rescheduled 3 times because of Lauren's hearings. My kitchen renovation money was gone, so I painted the cabinets myself one weekend and cried halfway through sanding because I realized I had delayed my own home for someone who publicly questioned my motives. Then I made tea, finished sanding, and kept going. 2 weeks later, a certified letter arrived from Ms. Kendall's office. Inside was a formal repayment agreement drafted at Lauren's request. Total documented support, $31,472. I sat down. I had known the number. Seeing it in legal language made it heavier. The agreement proposed monthly payments beginning after the divorce finalized, and Lauren obtained stable employment, with minimum payments, no interest for the first year, and a clause acknowledging that the payments had been made voluntarily at Lauren's request and did not constitute coercion, control, or ownership over her legal decisions. That clause mattered more to me than the money. I signed. Lauren signed. My parents co-signed for part of it, not because I demanded it, but because Dad called and said, "We should have helped sooner." I said yes. He said, "We are helping now." Good. The public family correction happened at Easter. I almost did not go, Mom begged. Dad asked politely. Lauren said Sophie wanted to see me. That got me. It always would. I told them I would come for 1 hour. When I arrived, Sophie ran across the yard and threw herself into my arms. "Aunt Hannah!" I held her tightly. Children do not owe adults forgiveness, but they often offer love without understanding the paperwork around it. Lauren stood near the porch. She looked thinner, tired, less polished. The divorce had taken a toll. Truth had too. At dinner, Aunt Carol asked a careless question. "So Lauren, are you still using that expensive lawyer Hannah picked?" The table tightened. Old Lauren might have laughed and said something vague. Old Mom might have redirected. Old me might have swallowed. Instead, Lauren put down her fork. "Yes," she said, "and I need to say something because people keep repeating pieces of the story incorrectly." Everyone looked up. My heart began to pound. Lauren continued. "Hannah did not pressure me into leaving David. I called her. I asked for help. She paid my attorney because I had no access to enough money. She paid for housing, therapy, childcare, and other expenses because I asked her to. I lied in court because I was ashamed and scared. Hannah helped me, and I hurt her." The room went silent. My mother began crying quietly. Dad looked down. Aunt Carol whispered, "Oh." Lauren looked at me. "I'm sorry, Hannah, publicly. Since I let people think badly of you publicly." That mattered. Not enough to rebuild everything, but enough to mark the ground. I said thank you. Sophie looked between us. "Can we have pie now?" Everyone laughed, because children have a gift for rescuing rooms without knowing it. We had pie. Repair came slowly. Not like a movie. More like physical therapy. Painful repetitions. Small gains. Setbacks. Boundaries. Lauren got a part-time job first. Then, full-time administrative work at a medical clinic. She moved into a smaller apartment after realizing the first one I helped fund was too expensive. She attended therapy. Sophie began sleeping better. David remained difficult, but the court orders helped. Lauren made her first repayment 3 months after Easter. $200. Memo line, repayment 1, thank you. I stared at it for a long time, then transferred it into a savings account labeled kitchen again. Maybe petty, maybe hopeful. Both. Our relationship changed. It had to. She no longer called me first for every crisis. She had a therapist, a support group, a legal team, and parents who finally participated with money instead of opinions. When she did call, she asked, "Do you have capacity to talk?" The first time she said that, I almost laughed. "Who taught you that?" "My therapist." "Good therapist?" "Yes." Sometimes I said no. She survived. That was good for both of us. My parents changed too, though not perfectly. Mom still leaned toward Lauren when conflict arose, but she caught herself more often. Once, during a family dinner, Lauren began spiraling about a letter from David's attorney. Mom looked at me automatically. "What should Hannah?" Then stopped. She turned to Lauren. "What does your attorney say?" I smiled into my water glass. Progress. Dad apologized again months later while helping me install cabinet handles in my still half-renovated kitchen. "I keep thinking about the courthouse," he said. I handed him a screwdriver. "So do I. I saw the papers and realized you had been doing what parents should have done." I did not soften that for him. "Yes." He nodded. "I'm ashamed." "Good." He looked at me. I said, "Shame can be useful if it pays attention." He smiled sadly. "That sounds like your grandmother." She was right about receipts. She was right about many things. When my kitchen was finally finished, nearly 2 years later than planned, I invited a few friends over. Not family first, friends. People who had seen me disappear into Lauren's crisis and gently called me back. Priya from work brought wine. My neighbor brought flowers. My friend Denise stood in the doorway and said, "This kitchen looks like boundaries." I laughed. It did. White cabinets, green tile, open shelves. A small frame on the wall with a copy of Grandma's note from the cash box. Money tells a story. Write yours down before someone else writes it for you. I still have the green cash box. It sits in my office now, filled not with money but with important papers. My passport. Deed. Insurance policies. Copies of the repayment agreement. The court transcript page where Lauren corrected herself. Not because I want to hold betrayal forever, because memory with dates protected me once. I do not confuse forgiveness with forgetting the documents that kept the truth alive. Lauren and I are better now. Not old better. New better. More cautious. More honest. Less built on me being the emergency exit. One evening, about a year after the courthouse, she came over with Sophie. Sophie did homework at my kitchen table while Lauren and I washed dishes. Lauren said, "I think I hated owing you." "I know. Not because you made me feel small." "I know. Because needing you made me see how bad things had gotten." I handed her a plate. "That makes sense. It doesn't excuse what I did." "No." She dried the plate slowly. "I used you as proof I wasn't responsible. If you pushed me, then I didn't have to admit I chose David for years." I looked at her. "That is the most honest thing you've said about it." She nodded. "I'm trying. I can tell." "Do you forgive me?" I thought about it. Not because I wanted to make her suffer. Because I wanted the answer to be true. "I am forgiving you," I said. Present tense. She nodded, tears in her eyes. "I'll take present tense." That is where we are, present tense. The final lesson is not that you should never help family in crisis. Help can save lives. Money can create exits. A paid retainer can become a door. A hotel room can become safety. A sister can be the difference between staying and surviving. But help without boundaries can become a debt no one is willing to name. And undocumented sacrifice can be rewritten by whoever cries first. My parents made me pay for my sister's divorce lawyer. Then she testified against me. And when the hallway whispers turned into courtroom questions, when my sister's fear tried to turn my support into coercion, the receipts, messages, Invoices and payment records told the story more clearly than anyone's panic could. I did not save Lauren so she would owe me forever. I helped because she asked. But when she lied to protect herself, I protected the truth. And that is the difference between love and disappearance. Thank you for staying with me through this story. I know some of you have been the sibling, daughter, aunt, friend, or emergency contact who paid the bill, drove through the storm, opened the guest room, answered the midnight call, and then got blamed when the story became uncomfortable. If Hannah's story reached you, I hope you remember that kindness does not require erasing your own cost. Keep the texts, keep the receipts, keep the transfer records. Keep your heart open if you can, but keep your folder ready when you must. Subscribe to Ultimate Revenge for more stories about quiet women, family betrayal, silent comebacks, and the moment the documents finally tell the truth. So tell me, if your family made you pay for your sister's divorce lawyer, and then she testified that you pressured her, would you stay silent to protect her image? Or would you open the folder and let every payment and message speak?